And so I I probably shouldn't be saying any of this. There were licensing deals because usually people come to me with it.
Right.
And I was
Victor Crowley and the Hatchet franchise have been so monumental in the horror world, and that has been leaking into the horror gaming world over the last few years, maybe more so now than ever. From the unique character that Victor Crowley is, to the insane kills that might even surpass Jason Voorhees level, to how well the movies were made and the horror royalty cast that the films had, Hatchet should be near the top of any list of licenses that a company would want in their game. On the Slasher Radio podcast, we recently interviewed horror icon Adam Green, director, writer, creator of the Hatchet franchise, and a bunch of other great horror projects. Also, just a reminder that full episodes of the Slasher Radio podcast are now being uploaded directly to this feed on YouTube, and we appreciate how many of you guys have already checked them out. They are for the real horror fans. But during this discussion, we of course brought up the Victor Crowley Dead by Daylight and Gun Interactive rumors, and Adam went more in depth than he probably should have. We'll kick you over to that interview and hit some points afterwards, but before that, don't forget to slash those like and subscribe buttons if you want YouTube to keep throwing you videos just like these. Alright, let's see what Adam had to say. And you're doing other stuff, which, you know, like you said, priorities are the key to making things like this. But you said something interesting, what leads into the last question that I had. Victor Crowley, I mean, despite what, obviously, as you know, despite what, you know, might be said about these movies not making money or whatever it is, Victor Crowley is a huge name in the horror genre, and it's been floating around in the gaming world. And you had worked on the writing for the Friday the 13th game, the Tommy tapes, which was awesome. I loved that game, loved Gun and all of them.
You know what's funny is that's the only thing. I haven't looked in a couple of years now, so maybe it's changed. That's the only thing I've ever written that had 100% like positive feedback, at least that I saw. Yeah, but that was so fun to get to just kind of dip my toe into that world. And yeah, but there's definitely been like inquiries before, probably from some of the games you're thinking of, where they'll just sort of feel out like what would the rights be for this or that, but nothing's panned out yet. There was one point where it didn't get that close, but there was interest in a Halloween Horror Nights maze, and then it didn't happen. It was just like the one quick conversation, and then they went with something else. But then here in California, there's Not Scary Farm, not Sperry Farm, but for Halloween, it's Not Scary Farm, which is also awesome. I actually, for the last few years, I've really enjoyed that more than Universal because all the mazes are original. But they were starting, this is like 15 years ago now, they were starting to play with IP stuff. And they had a maze there each year called Voodoo, and the outside was like Bourbon Street, and then it was a swamp. And so there was a conversation that was like, we could just literally put Victor Crowley in here and stuff from Hatchet and I was like, holy shit, that would be so cool. And again, just because as a fan, I want to see it. That was my favorite part of the action figures, was like, I just wanted one. Like, I'm a fan of Victor Crowley. I think he's cool. I want an action figure. And so when it finally happened, it was like the coolest thing, but it hasn't yet. But yeah, as far as video games go, like, of course we would find a way to make that happen if it was the right thing. But every now and then you get a call from someone who's like, we're going to make our first game. Like, no, thanks. Like, we'll be in your second one. How about that?
Right. And there's so many, there's been, you know, Gun, who made Friday the 13th, which my favorite game by far. A lot of people have been throwing around because Kane Hodder's doing it, and, you know, they're like, oh, it's Hatchet, and that's a big rumor. And we're partnered with Dead by Daylight, to what I was saying before, where Victor Crowley is such a big name. We see that name all the time pop up. And it's like everyone wants Hatchet as a chapter in that game. Is that something that you would be interested in if it presented itself in the proper fashion?
Yeah, 100%. It's just again, not to peel the curtain back too much, but I just know like the action figures that came out made a lot of money, and
Right.
Who got that money? That's what I want to know.
You're 100% right. Yeah.
And so I probably shouldn't be saying any of this. There were licensing deals because usually people come to me with it.
Right.
And I was just saying no to everything because I don't want to make more money for these people who have nothing else to do with it. But like,
Right.
and that's the other, like the shady side of this business. There's one movie in particular, or two, I guess, where when the movie is done and you're like, wait, who is that? And you're seeing like producers listed and you're like, I've never even met this person. Like they weren't even there. Who is this? But it all goes back to the, how the financing was put together. And then usually it's like, oh, but don't worry, they didn't take a fee or anything. They're just getting back end, but they're getting back end before the people who actually are in the movie and worked on the movie and made the movie and created the thing. And it's all just a big scam. And then like with international, good luck trying to prove how well it did. They're never going to tell you. So it's hard. And this is not something new.
Absolutely not.
Lord of the Rings, look at what happened with that. And Peter Jackson had to sue New Line for he ended up getting like $220 million or something as the reported settlement. Forrest Gump, they claim didn't make any money. Return of the Jedi didn't make any money. Like it's just a shitty fucking business. So I don't know. I would love, just as a fan though, if one of those places ever called and was like, we want to put Victor Crowley in this, I would do everything I could to make that happen just because I want to play it and I want to see it. So, but it's also too, though, you got to remember though, like Victor Crowley's not, I think if you're like a big horror fan, you know who he is, but I don't think the average, like if you show somebody a hockey mask, even if they're not a horror fan, they know that's Jason. They know Freddy's glove. They know Michael Myers. I don't think Victor Crowley's there, but it's also, this is a weird genre too, because the more time that goes by, the bigger things get. Like Evil Dead was not a thing when it came out. Even the second one, that was not like a household name or nothing. But then over time, because every day there's a new horror fan born, whatever that movie is that gets them into it, then they want to start seeing all of it. And they end up finding it. So the shelf life definitely keeps growing, which is cool. But yeah, I would love to see that happen. And they know where to find me if they want to do it.
All right. Well, I mean, we can give them your information for sure. And that's the thing. As the fans, it's great to see these big titles put into games that we play. That's awesome and all. But to see the cult, because you're right, Victor Crowley probably isn't at that Jason atmosphere. Not that many are, but to the real horror fans who know what these Hatchet movies, for example, did for the genre, those are the ones we want. Like those are the ones. But I get what you mean, and you're 100% right.
I just think even if you didn't know the movies, that it's a cool enough looking and violent enough character that people would enjoy it. But speaking of characters in video games, I lost my shit with excitement when Art the Clown was in Call of Duty. I was like, holy because that's a whole nother level. Like if Art the Clown had been in Dead by Daylight or another like horror thing, but Call of Duty, so cool. Mm-hmm.
When the genre can cross over, it's a beautiful thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Adam had a few interesting quotes. There have been inquiries, probably from some of the games you're thinking of, but nothing's panned out yet. This might mean that Behavior has already reached out to Adam about Victor Crowley coming into Dead by Daylight, and maybe they are even currently in talks about it and just haven't come to an agreement yet. This also suggests that Gunn's next game, being Hatchet, is most likely ruled out, as Gunn is far enough along on their new project that if conversations are still being had, there's no way for Hatchet to be their next game at this point. Adam also said, as far as video games go, of course we'll find a way to make it happen if it was the right thing. This seems like Adam would genuinely love to see Victor Crowley in a video game, but wants things to be done correctly. Much like Scott Cawthon with Five Nights at Freddy's, Adam is the creator of Victor Crowley and Hatchet, so obviously he wants his property to be represented in a certain way.
Whenever we work directly with a creator, it's more intense, let's say, because they care, right?
And this might suggest maybe there were creative differences during these conversations. Lastly, Adam seems to doubt the level of want for Victor Crowley in Dead by Daylight, or any other horror game for that matter, which I strongly disagree with. But what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments if you want Victor Crowley in Dead by Daylight, if you think he would be a good fit. Let us know if Adam's comments swayed you one way or another on the stance of Crowley coming into the fog. And as always, slash those like and subscribe buttons, and we'll catch you on the next video. Good night from Slasher Radio.